Picture yourself in a medieval village, the air thick with the scent of wood smoke and damp earth. You're about to dive into a world where intimacy wasn't the stuff of candlelit ballads, but a gritty, awkward dance of survival and secrecy. Forget Hollywood's rose-tinted castles. This is the real deal, scandalous, scholarly, and occasionally absurd. The medieval bedroom, if you could call it that, was less about silk sheets and more about dodging the chicken that's claimed your pillow. So settle in, maybe crack a window for that soft night breeze, and let's unravel the bizarre truth of love and lust in the Middle Ages. Hit that like button if you're ready for some history that's as human as it gets, and drop a comment, where are you tuning in from and what's the vibe tonight? Let's get cozy and curious together. The biggest myth about medieval intimacy, that it was romantic. You might imagine knights whispering poetry under moonlight, but the reality was far less poetic. Most folks lived in one-room hovels, where the line between kitchen, bedroom and barn was just a whiff of stale ale or a rogue goat. Privacy was a fantasy like a hot bath or a day without fleas. You're trying to steal a moment with your sweetheart, but your kids are snoring 3 feet away. Your mother-in-law's muttering about the harvest and the neighbour's dog is barking like it's auditioning for the village watch. This wasn't a setting for passion. It was a logistical nightmare. And yet people made it work because humans are nothing if not stubborn. They found ways to carve out fleeting moments of connection, proving that even in the grimmiest corners of history, the heart keeps beating. Ready for more? We're just warming up. Imagine you're crammed into a medieval peasant's home, the kind where the fire's crackling, the straw floor's crunching underfoot, and the air smells like yesterday's stew mixed with livestock. You're hoping for a quiet moment with your spouse, but good luck, privacy in the Middle Ages was as rare as a sunny day in February. Your whole family's here, kids sprawled on a shared mattress, grandparents grumbling in the corner, and a couple of pigs rooting around like they own the place. The walls, thin as gossip, letting every creak and whisper spill to the neighbours. You've got to time your affections just right, wait till the kids are out cold, face the wall and pray the rooster doesn't crow early. Curtains, a lord's luxury. Silence, a miracle. Even the wealthy weren't spared the audience. Nobles might have a proper bed, but servants often slept at the foot ears, perked like nosy hounds. Some households kept logs of who was where, as if your love life needed a scribe's approval. Travelling worse. Inns pack strangers into shared beds so you're whispering sweet nothings next to a snoring merchant who smells like old boots. Monks and nuns had it toughest, no whispers allowed, though those high abbey walls hint at secrets kept from prying eyes. In this world, intimacy was a game of stealth, played under the watchful gaze of family faith and the occasional chicken. Humans, though, are crafty. They found ways to steal moments, proving desires tougher than any stone wall. You're kneeling in a drafty medieval church, the scent of incense heavy, while a priest drones on about sin. The church wasn't just about saving souls, it had a chokehold on your bedroom too. Intimacy in their eyes had one job: making babies. Anything else, pleasure bonding or heaven forbid fun, was suspicious, if not outright sinful. They didn't just preach this on Sundays. They wrote manuals thick as a ploughman's arm dictating what you could and couldn't do. Want to get close on a Sunday? Nope, that's the Lord's Day. Friday, penance day, keep your hands to yourself. Lent, 40 days of nope. Advent, another 40. By the time you dodge feast days, fast days, and the priest's favourite saint's birthday, you're left with maybe a random Tuesday in June, and even then you'd better not enjoy it too much. The rules didn't stop at timing. The church had opinions on style. Missionary was the only way, not for comfort, but because it was natural and least likely to tick off God. Anything else, even a hint of enthusiasm, raised eyebrows. One bishop's guide demanded couples approach each other like they're filing taxes, no passion, no delays, just duty. Priests got nosy too, grilling you in confession about every detail, their quills practically twitching. Breaking the rules could mean penance gossip or a sermon with your name all but carved in it. Yet people nodded, smiled, and slipped back to their lives, because love's a rebel, and even the church couldn't stamp out what burns in the dark. You're sitting in a dim confessional, the wooden bench creaking under you, the air heavy with wax and judgment. The priest leans in, his voice low, asking questions that make your ears burn. Questions about your bedroom, your thoughts, your every move. In medieval Europe, confession wasn't just soul cleansing. It was the church's way of keeping tabs on your most private moments. They didn't mess around. Manuals for priests listed sins like a tavern menu, with specific probes about who, what, and how often. Did you stray from the approved script? Did you enjoy it too much? The priest knew more about your nights than your spouse did, and his quill scratched it all down, ready to haunt you at the next sermon. It's enough to make you whisper your sins quieter than a mouse in a cathedral. But the church wasn't the only one watching. Step outside and the village's eyes are on you. Neighbours gossiped faster than a plague spreads their tongues, wagging about who was seen where with whom and for how long. Thin walls and open fields meant no secret was safe. If you slipped up, say, a stolen moment during Lent, you'd face more than a priest's frown. There were fines, public shaming, or a sermon with just enough detail to make everyone smirk. Yet peasants had a knack for shrugging it off. They'd nod at the rules, pay the fine in eggs if they had to, and carry on because life's too short, and love's too stubborn to be caged by a nosy friar or a chatty neighbour. Picture yourself at a medieval market, the air buzzing with haggling and the scent of fresh bread. You're eyeing someone across the stalls, heart thumping, but romance here isn't about flowers and moonlight. It's a contract cold as a winter's dawn. Courtship in the Middle Ages was less about love and more about land livestock and not starting a feud over a stolen pig. For peasants it meant sizing up a partner's worth, his plough, her bread-making skills, or whether their ox was bigger than the neighbour's. Nobles had it worse. Marriages were chess moves planned by families to snag alliances, or a juicy dowry of coin and cows. You might exchange a shy glance, but don't expect alone time. Mother's aunts, or the whole village watched like hawks ready to pounce if you held hands too long. Love. That was a bonus like finding an extra turnip in the stew. Most couples hoped to grow fond after the vows, not before. A bride brought linens or a patch of field. The groom promised not to be a total nuisance, yet sparks still flew. You'd steal whispers by the well trade, playful jabs at a harvest dance, or risk a moonlit stroll, knowing a court kiss could mean a fine or a pitchfork-wielding dad. The heart's a sneaky thing, and even in a world of arranged matches, people found ways to chase it quietly, cleverly, with a wink that said, "We'll figure this out, rules be damned." You've probably chuckled at the idea of a medieval chastity belt, some clunky iron contraption, locking up a lady while her knight gallops off to war. It's the stuff of cartoons and bad museum gift shops. But here's the truth, those belts were mostly a myth as real as a dragon's dental plan. The Middle Ages didn't need rusty padlocks to control fidelity. They had sharper tools, shame gossip, and a church that preached louder than a market crier. No solid records show chastity belts being common. The few examples we have, they pop up later in the Renaissance or Victorian era, often as jokes or creepy collector's items, not medieval must-haves. Manuscripts laws, even tailors' logs, are silent on them, and for good reason. They were impractical. Imagine the hygiene nightmare, no plumbing, no user manual, just you and a blacksmith's worst idea. So how did the myth start, blame later centuries, when folks loved painting the Middle Ages as a dark, repressed era? Renaissance moralists and Victorian weirdos ate up the image of a locked-up damsel. It fit their narrative, not the facts. In reality, fidelity was policed by watchful eyes. Noble women had chaperones dogging their every step. Peasants had villages that never slept on gossip. A whiff of scandal could tank a dowry or spark a sermon. People stayed in line not because of iron belts, but because their neighbours were the medieval equivalent of a live streaming app. Always on, always judging. Still, it's a funny image, isn't it? A knight fumbling with a key only to find the real lock was the village's wagging tongues. You're strolling through a bustling medieval town, the cobblestones uneven underfoot, the air sharp with the tang of smoke and ale. Tucked in a shadowy alley marked by a flickering lantern is something that might surprise you: a brothel, not just tolerated, but licensed by the town council. In medieval Europe, these weren't seedy secrets, but regulated businesses as official as the baker's stall. Cities like London and Paris set up red light districts long before electric lights, collecting taxes and employing overseers with titles like Keeper of Public Women, which sounds like the worst job to explain at a feast. The logic was grimly practical: let men have an outlet, and maybe they'd skip worse sins like adultery or, heaven forbid, dancing. It's a system that feels cynical, like taxing turnips to keep the peace. Life inside wasn't a ballad, but it wasn't always despair either. Some women chose this work widows or those without kin, scraping by on what coin they could earn. Others were forced, especially in port towns where sailors brought trouble as often as gold. Rules were strict, clean sheets set hours, even health checks, all scribbled in town ledgers. Patrons ranged from knights to apprentices, sometimes bartering eggs or wool for a visit. The church grumbled, of course preaching fire, while some clergy quietly collected rent from the very houses they condemned. Hypocrisy, you say? Just another day in the Middle Ages. These women navigated a world that judged them yet leaned on their existence. Proving resilience isn't always loud. It's in the quiet endurance of a life others overlooked. Imagine you're in a medieval peasant's hut. The fire spitting sparks the air thick with the scent of damp wool and last week's stew. You're dreaming of a moment with your beloved, but there's a catch: nobody's bathed since the last full moon. Hygiene in the Middle Ages wasn't a priority. It was a distant cousin to surviving the plague or chasing down the pig that's raiding your pantry. Bathing happened maybe monthly if you were lucky enough to dodge a fall in the river. Soap made from ash and fat was a luxury hoarded like a lord's wine. Public bathhouses existed in towns, but they'd shut down during disease outbreaks or when the local priest got a whiff of scandal. For most, a quick splash from a bucket was as good as it got, and you hoped the stable's stench drowned out your own. The wealthy had it better: hot baths with herbs, linens to scrub away the day's grime. But even they couldn't escape the era's quirks. Water was suspect. Some thought too much washing weakened you, inviting chills or demons through your skin. Perfume for nobles only. Toothpaste. Try chewing mint or rubbing ash if you're fancy. Clothes trapped every scent, wool swept the chamber pot's latest gift. Yet love bloomed anyway. Maybe it was nose blindness. Or maybe when everyone's a bit ripe you stop noticing. People flirted, kissed, and fell hard, proving that desire doesn't care about a scrubbed face. It just finds a way like a weed through cracked stone. You're huddled in a medieval village, the hearth's glow casting shadows on the rough walls. You and your spouse are whispering about the future another mouth to feed could break you. Contraception in the Middle Ages was like wrestling a goat in the dark, messy, hopeful, and rarely successful. People knew babies came from certain acts, and they tried everything to outsmart nature. Herbal brews were the go-to: women sipped wine laced with rue, or pennyroyal praying it'd keep their womb quiet. Some swore by amulets blessed by a local wise woman, or rituals like burying a charm under the doorstep. One wild recipe called for drinking boiled beaver testicles, which sounds like a tavern dare gone wrong. Effectiveness. Spotty at best, but desperation breeds creativity. The church predictably wasn't amused. Blocking conception was a sin they thundered, as if poverty cared about sermons. Still, couples persisted, especially the poor who couldn't afford another child to clothe. Linen barriers waxed or soaked in herbs were tried early whispers of what we'd call condoms, though they were about as reliable as a leaky roof. When these failed, and they often did, hasty weddings or hushed talks followed. Folk wisdom, local plants, and a hefty dose of hope kept these efforts alive. It wasn't science, but it was human people reaching for control, in a world that offered little, proving that even in the shadow of dogma, the heart and mind keep scheming for a better tomorrow. You're sneaking through a medieval village at dusk, the air cool with the scent of hay and wood smoke. You've got your eye on someone special and your heart's racing, but in the Middle Ages, getting cosy before the wedding bells was a risky game. Premarital intimacy called fornication in church ledgers and jumping the cart in village whispers wasn't rare, but it came with a spotlight. Couples stole moments behind barns or in moonlit fields, their giggles muffled by the fear of being caught. If the local busybody spotted you, you'd face more than a wagging finger. Town officials kept moral logs like a medieval gossip spreadsheet, and getting nabbed meant fines paid to the church, the town, or the neighbour who ratted you out. Snitching was practically a sport. The fallout depended on the details. If a pregnancy popped up, you might rush to the altar, and some towns would waive the fine like a retroactive hall pass. Others still made you pay, but maybe at a discount like an early bird sin special. Neighbours never let you forget their whispers sharp as a reaper's scythe. Yet love's a rebel. Handfasting in formal vows that felt like marriage let some couples skirt the rules living together until the priest caught up. Peasants handled it practically. If a baby was on the way, families nudged or shoved you toward the chapel. Nobles, though, faced higher stakes. Scandal could tank alliances or inheritances. In every hushed tryst, people weighed desire against disgrace, proving the heart's a gambler even when the odds are steep. Imagine you're a young woman in a medieval town, your future hinging on a single word: virginity. It wasn't just a personal choice. It was a legal clause, a social currency, and a village obsession. For peasants, arriving at marriage untested was ideal, but slip-ups could be smoothed over with a quick wedding, or a small fine, maybe a sheep or two. The stakes were higher for nobles, where a bride's purity was tied to dowries, alliances, and family honour. One misstep could spark a feud or derail a dynasty's plans. Verification. A messy business. Some relied on gossip or vague character references. She avoided the miller's son mostly. Others turned to midwives for invasive checks, chasing myths about physical signs that science later debunked. Displaying a bloodied sheet post-wedding was a grim custom in some places. like a public review of your virtue-triggering lawsuits or drama, if it didn't meet expectations. Men of course skated by. A groom's past was nobody's business, maybe a mild tisk for dallying with tavern maids. The church spun virginity into a saintly ideal, piling pressure on women with tales of martyred maidens. A failed betrothal could ruin a woman's family stripping land or status. Yet people pushed back quietly. Lovers found ways to bend rules, and communities sometimes looked the other way. Virginity wasn't just about morality. It was a contract, a power play, a weight women carried while men shrugged. Through it all, human stubbornness shone, finding love in the cracks of a system built to control it. You're wandering a medieval market, the hum of barter and laughter around you, but some glances carry a secret weight. Same-sex attraction. It existed as human as the dirt under your boots, but in the Middle Ages it lived in the shadows. The church called it sin, lumping it with oddities like reading too many books, and punishments varied. Peasants might get a stern lecture. Nobles could face exile if they weren't rich enough to buy silence. Yet life was messier than sermons. Monks penned love letters in Latin, their words dancing between devotion and desire. Noble women shared beds, vowing loyalty in ways that made poets blush. Monasteries and convents bred bonds so deep, historians still argue friendship or something more. No one came out. You lived quietly, cloaking affection in songs, pilgrimages, or coded tales of saints. Society revolved around marriage and land, leaving little room for love that didn't fit the mould. Still, people carved out space. A knight's sworn brotherhood carried a warmth that raised eyebrows. A lady's intense companionship sparked whispers. There were no labels, no parades, just stolen moments and unspoken vows. Records hinted at poems, legal scraps, letters that linger too long on a friend's name. Love in all its forms was a quiet rebellion blooming, despite rules and risks. Medieval hearts didn't wait for permission. They found ways to sing, to touch, to endure. And in those hidden sparks you see it, humans against all odds chasing joy, in a world that tried to fence it in. You're standing on a storm-battered shore near Athens, the sea roaring like a beast that's just claimed its prize. The year is long before your time, and Zeno of Citium, a merchant from Cyprus, is staring at the wreckage of his life. His ships, laden with precious dyes, are gone, swallowed by waves that don't care about wealth or ambition. One minute he's a man who owns the Mediterranean's trade routes. The next he's soaked broke and wondering what's left when fortune spits in your face. It's the kind of moment that breaks most people but Zeno. He's about to turn ruin into revelation. Settle in, maybe dim the lights, and let's walk with him through a story that's less about loss and more about finding what can't be sunk. Wandering Athens' bustling agora, Zeno stumbles into a bookshop, the air thick with papyrus and dust. His hands, still trembling from the sea's betrayal, pick up a worn scroll, Xenophon's Memorabilia, brimming with Socrates' quiet wisdom. The words hit like a spark in dry grass, live well, not richly. Curious, he asks the bookseller where to find such a man. The old man points to Crates, a cranky, cynic philosopher shuffling past, who once tossed his gold into the sea to prove it worthless. Zeno follows, studying under Crates' harsh lessons, poverty, simplicity, defiance of desire. It's not easy. Zeno's no monk yet, but the seeds of something new take root. From a merchant's fall rises a man ready to rebuild, not with ships, but with ideas that'll outlast empires. Ready for what he builds next, you're in Athens now, under the painted colonnades of the Stoa Poikile, where murals of gods and heroes watch over a crowd of curious minds. Zeno of Citium stands here no longer the merchant who lost his fleet, but a teacher with a fire in his eyes. He's pieced together a philosophy from the ashes of his old life, blending Socrates' ethics, Crates' grit, and the sharp logic of thinkers like Heraclitus. This isn't some dusty lecture hall, it's a public porch open to anyone with ears and a willingness to think. The air smells of olive oil and sun-baked stone, and Zeno's voice carries a quiet strength, naming his teachings after this very place, Stoicism. It's a philosophy born not in comfort, but in the raw edge of survival, and you're about to hear its heartbeat. At its core, Zeno preaches logos, the cosmic reason that stitches the universe together. Everything he says has a purpose, even the storms that wreck your plans. Virtue is the only true good. Wealth, fame, even health are just extras, nice but not necessary. You can't control the world's chaos, gods know Zeno tried, but you can control your mind, your choices, your spine. It's radical stuff in a city, chasing gold and glory. People lean in, some nodding, others arguing as Zeno paints a life of calm amid the wreckage. This porch isn't just a stage, it's a forge shaping a way to live that'll echo through centuries. His students are gathering, and the ideas are spreading like a slow, steady flame. You're still under the Stoa Poikil's shade, the Athenian sun glinting off its vibrant murals, but now Zeno's words are sinking deep. He's teaching you to live like a dog tied to a cart run with it, or get dragged because life's moving either way. Stoicism isn't about numbing your heart, it's about anchoring it. You can't stop the world from throwing storms, betrayals, or bad harvests, but you can choose how to meet them with clear eyes and a steady hand. Zeno's big idea: align with Logos, the universe's rational pulse, and make virtue your North Star. Fame fades, gold slips through your fingers, but being just brave-wise, that's yours forever. It's a path so simple, it's brutal, yet so human, it's timeless. You feel it, don't you? That quiet urge to stand taller no matter what's coming. Zeno's not alone for long. His students, merchants, soldiers, dreamers carry his words beyond the porch, but it's Cleanthes who grabs the reins next. A former boxer, he brings muscle to the mind, trading punches for principles. Stoicism spreads not as a scholar's game, but a lifeline for real people facing real pain. It'll outlast Athens' glory, guiding emperors like Marcus Aurelius, and slaves like Epictetus. Zeno's shipwreck didn't just birth a philosophy, it built a way to navigate life's roughest seas. As you listen, the Stoa's hum fades, but the lesson lingers. You're not your losses, but how you rise from them. Close your eyes, let the world slow, and carry that truth into your dreams. You're stepping into a Roman bathhouse, the air warm with steam, and the faint scent of olive oil and herbs. Marble gleams underfoot, and the hum of chatter bounces off vaulted ceilings. This isn't just a place to scrub clean, it's the heart of Roman life where senators sweat beside bakers, and deals are struck as easily as dirt is scraped away. Forget modern spas with their soft music. These baths are loud, lively, and a little chaotic, like a marketplace for bodies and ideas. Picture yourself unwinding here, your sandals handed off to a servant, the day's dust fading as you sink into the ritual. Drop a like if you're loving this dip into history, and tell me in the comments, where are you listening from, and what's the mood tonight? Let's dive deeper into this steamy world. Roman baths were more than hygiene stops. They were wellness hubs, social clubs, and symbols of empire. From Britain's chilly hills to Syria's sun-baked sands, they popped up wherever Rome planted its flag. You'd walk through rooms of hot, warm, and cold, each designed to soothe your muscles and clear your mind. Doctors swore by them, soldiers relied on them, and philosophers scribbled treatises in their glow. The baths promised health connection, and a taste of Rome's grandeur, even if you were just a farmer with a sore back. They were where the empire showed off mosaics, fountains, and engineering so clever it made you forget the world outside. Ready to explore what made these places tick, the water's just right. You're in the caldarium, the hottest room of a Roman bath where steam curls like a living thing and the floor's toasty under your bare feet. The Romans didn't just come here to feel good, they believed these baths kept them alive. Doctors with their scrolls and serious nods prescribed a soak like we'd pop a vitamin. They thought health hinged on balancing the body's humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile, and the baths were their cure-all. A hot plunge in the caldarium opened your pores, eased your joints, and got your blood flowing. Then a quick dip in the frigidarium's icy pool snapped you awake, calming inflammation and making you feel like you could wrestle a lion. It's not far off from today's hydrotherapy minus the fancy jets. The routine was deliberate sweat scrape, cool repeat. Attendants used strigils, curved metal tools to scrape off dirt and oil, leaving your skin smoother than a senator's promises. Massages followed with oils infused with lavender or myrrh, kneading out the day's aches. Some baths even had clinics where Greek-trained physicians checked your cough or poked at your sore knee, suggesting a longer soak or a diet tweak. Exercise was part of it too. Wrestling or ball games in the Palestra courtyard got your heart pumping before the steam did its work. The Romans saw health as a grind earned through sweat and discipline, and the baths were their arena. Mental clarity came too. Stoics wrote of the baths as a place to tame wild thoughts. Step out and you're not just clean, you're renewed body and soul. You're gliding through a Roman bath's tepidarium, the warm heart of the complex where sunlight streams through high windows dancing on mosaic floors. The air's soft, scented with steam and cedar, and every inch of this place screams empire. The Romans didn't just build baths, they crafted cathedrals of comfort. Walls shimmer with frescoes of gods and vineyards, while marble columns hauled from Egypt or quarried nearby hold up coffered ceilings that seem to touch the stars. The floors are a riot of coloured tiles, fish and waves swirling underfoot like you're walking on the sea. It's not just pretty, it's a flex, a reminder that Rome could make even a bath feel like a palace. You can't help but gape your stress melting faster than wax in the caldarium. Every room's a masterpiece. The caldarium's bronze braziers glow, their heat rippling through pools fed by gilded taps. Statues of Apollo or Venus watch from niches, adding a divine vibe to your soak. The frigidarium, cool and vast, boasts a ceiling painted with stars, its cold pool reflecting light like a mirror. Fountains gurgle, musicians pluck lyres in the distance, and even small-town baths get in on the charm, with cheeky mosaics, Latin quips like, "Beware the dog" or "Enjoy the bath." This wasn't vanity. It was Rome saying, "We're the best and you'll feel it." The design calmed your nerves, lifted your spirit and made you forget the muddy roads outside. As you linger, you realise these baths weren't just for your body, they were for your soul, a slice of eternity in stone and steam. You're in a Roman bathhouse, the steam curling around you like a warm embrace, but don't let the shared splash fool you, everyone knows their place. The baths were Rome's great equaliser, where emperors might dunk beside cobblers, but the pecking order clung tighter than a wet tunic. Picture yourself as a commoner elbow to elbow with a senator. You're not about to strike up a chat. Wealthy patrons roll in with entourages, slaves hauling towels, oils and portable stools like it's a parade. They snag private massages or slip into exclusive rooms, while you're left dodging their swagger in the public pools. It's a democracy of sweat, sure, but the rich always get the better seat. Gender splits the scene too. Men and women rarely bathe together, separate wings or hours keep things proper, though wild emperors like Elagabalus stirred scandal by mixing it up. Women's baths, when they exist, are lush, but in smaller towns, ladies get the early shift scrubbing under society's watchful eye. Slaves and freedmen squeeze in during off hours, their labour often fueling the baths as attendants or stokers, yet some earn fame for their charm. Foreigners, welcome mostly as Rome's baths were a cultural handshake stripped down and you're half Roman. Still your status shapes your soak. The mist blurs the lines but never erases them, and in that tension, you feel Rome's pulse unity with a side of snobbery. You're lounging in a Roman bath's tepidarium, the warm air loosening your shoulders as a flute's melody drifts through the steam. These baths weren't just for scrubbing. They were Rome's playground, a mix of gym theatre and tavern, where you could lose an afternoon and not care. Picture yourself fresh from a wrestling match in the palestra, your muscles humming, now heading to a library nook tucked off the hall. Yes, library scrolls by Virgil or Cicero wait to feed your mind while your body rests. It's a one-stop shop for soul and sinew, and you're loving every second. The hum of life here's addictive, so hit that like. If you're vibing with Rome's leisure game, and drop a comment, where's your chill spot tonight? Entertainment's everywhere. Harpists strum near fountains, their notes mingling with laughter. Acrobats tumble, comedians sling jabs, and food stalls dish out olives. Cheese or wine, fancy folks have slaves bring peacock platters. Gambling's a quiet thrill. Dice clatter in corners, bets fly on palestra matches, legal or not. Some baths have shadier rooms where whispers turn to deals, or more the steam hiding all but the giggles. It's a world where you eat, play and scheme all while soaking. The baths were Rome's pulse, a place to live loudly, love discreetly, and leave refreshed your heart as full as your stomach, ready to see how this spread across an empire. You're in a bathhouse far from Rome, maybe Britannia's misty hills or Syria's dusty plains, but the steam, the mosaics, the ritual feel like home. Roman baths weren't just buildings, they were Rome's handshake, a way to knit an empire from Gaul's forests to Africa's deserts. Wherever legions marched, engineers followed, raising baths alongside roads and forts. Step into one and you're in Rome's embrace, the hot caldarium chasing away the chill of a foreign land. It's no accident baths were propaganda in marble whispering, "This is civilization, and you're part of it." You shed your local cloak, plunge in, and for a moment you're Roman no matter your tongue or tribe. Each bathhouse had local flavour. In Britain, hot rooms ruled to fight the damp. In North Africa, cool pools and shaded courts offered sun relief. Syria's baths borrowed Eastern arches, Egypt's blended Hellenistic gardens. Yet the core stayed Roman apoditerium, tepidarium, caldarium, frigidarium, a universal rhythm. Cities like Timgad or Bath boasted thermae with inscriptions praising emperors, reminding you who paid for the steam. For conquered folk, baths were a soft sell, keep your gods, but bathe like us. The city wasn't Roman without one tied to forums and temples, a civic heart. In that shared splash, Rome forged unity, making an empire feel like one big steamy family even at its farthest edges. You're standing in the ruins of a Roman bathhouse, the once steamy caldarium now silent, its mosaics cracked under a cold sky. By the 4th century, CE Rome's empire was fraying, and its baths, those grand hubs of sweat and gossip, began to fade. Picture the decline. Inflation choked the treasury wars, drained the coffers, and maintaining these vast complexes with their armies of stokers and aqueduct-fed pools became a luxury Rome couldn't afford. Aqueducts crumbled or were smashed by invaders, leaving the baths dry as a desert sermon. The marble halls, once alive with laughter, echoed only with wind, their grandeur slipping into shadow. It's a slow heartbreak, isn't it? A world of ritual reduced to rubble. Yet the bath spirit didn't vanish. Christianity rose, and some church leaders sniffed at the baths' nudity and decadence, repurposing them into churches or letting them rot. But across the Islamic world, hammams carried the torch, steamy rooms, and communal cleansing, a nod to Rome's genius. In Europe, Renaissance spas in places like Bath, England, revived the vibe, blending therapy with socialising. Today you feel it in a hot shower's sigh or a sauna's glow, a whisper of Rome's obsession with comfort and care. The baths of Caracalla or Pompeii still draw crowds, their stones preaching Rome's real conquest, not just land, but a way of living shared and savoured that lingers in every steamy soak you take. You're in ancient Egypt, the Nile's murmur blending with temple chants, the air heavy with incense and mystery. Healing here isn't just bandages and herbs, it's a dance with the gods, a weave of science and spirit. Imagine a fever gripping you. Your healer, a Sudia, doesn't just check your pulse. They might recite a spell to appease Sekhmet, the lioness goddess who sends plagues, but also cures them. Medicine lives in temples, homes, and the cosmos where illness could stem from a bad onion or a deity's wrath. Settle in, maybe light a candle for that ancient vibe, and let's explore a world where every cure carries a prayer, like this journey. Hit that like button and tell me, where are you chilling tonight? Temples like Imhotep's, the deified physician, were proto-hospitals. You'd sleep there hoping for a dream that whispered your cure, a practice called incubation. Priests and doctors teamed up, one mixing salves the other, chanting to restore Ma'at, the universal balance. Scrolls like the Ebers Papyrus held centuries of wisdom, recipes for toothaches, wounds, even heartbreak paired with incantations to make them stick. Egyptians didn't separate body from soul. A broken leg needed linen, but a strange fever called for divine intervention. It's holistic, human, and oddly modern, a reminder that healing's as much about hope as it is about herbs, ready to see how they figured out what ailed you. You're in an ancient Egyptian healer's hut, the air thick with the tang of myrrh and papyrus dust. Suanya leans over you, eyes sharp, feeling your wrist for the speech of the heart, your pulse. In a world without stethoscopes, Egyptian doctors were detectives of the body, using sight, touch, and smell to crack the case. They'd study your skin's hue, sniff your breath, even inspect your urine for clues, sweet or sour, soft swelling or hard. These weren't guesses. They logged it all, passing patterns down through scrolls like the Ebers Papyrus. It's methodical, almost modern, and you can't help but marvel at their precision, honed by centuries of watching the Nile's people live and ail. When the body's signs weren't enough, they turned to the unseen, a fever with no cause, maybe a god's anger or a restless spirit haunting your bones. The healer might consult a priest, read the stars, or interpret your dreams for answers. Sacred animals, cats, ibises, could hint at divine will. If your pulse stuttered, they saw blocked channels like the Nile's irrigation gone awry, carrying blood, air, and spirit. Physical or spiritual, they chased the truth with keen eyes and open minds. Their texts split ailments into treatable or hopeless, a triage born of hard-won wisdom. As the healer murmurs a charm, you feel it. Medicine here isn't just science, it's a bridge to the cosmos, seeking harmony in every beat of your heart. You're in an ancient Egyptian healer's workshop, the air rich with the earthy scent of crushed herbs and the sharp tang of natron. Shelves groan under jars of honey myrrh, and stranger things like crocodile dung, which, trust me, was more useful than it sounds. Egyptian medicine was a treasure chest of remedies drawn from the Nile's bounty and the god's wisdom. The Ebers Papyrus, a sprawling scroll from 1550 BCE, lists over 700 recipes for everything from burns to bellyaches. Picture a Swinya mixing honey nature's antiseptic with crushed sycamore fruit to soothe a wound, chanting a spell to wake its power. It's not just chemistry, it's a ritual blending the seen and unseen to mend your body. Feel that ancient pulse. Hit that, like if you're hooked, and drop a comment, where's your headspace tonight? Your honey was their star, slathered on cuts to fight infection, a trick we still use. Garlic onions and juniper berries tackled inflammation, their sting a sign of strength. Myrrh scented salves and banished bacteria. For the bold lizard blood or hippo fat promised cures their oddity carrying spiritual weight. Natron the salt of mummies' dried wounds, while copper flakes fought germs in ointments. Lotus oil eased aching joints, black cumin soothed skin. Each dose came with instructions: apply for 4 days, speak Isis's name, and faith that words made medicine stronger. Some sound wild, but many work their echoes in our pharmacies today. Egyptians didn't just heal. They wove a tapestry of land magic and care, every remedy a stitch toward harmony. You're lying on a reed mat in ancient Egypt, Yond hovering over you with a bronze scalpel glinting in the lamplight. A gash on your arm needs stitching, and these healers don't flinch. Egyptian surgery laid bare in the Edwin Smith papyrus from 1600 BCE was no guesswork, it was precise, clinical, almost modern. This scroll, a war doctor's notebook, details 40 injuries, skull fractures, broken bones, gaping wounds. Each case lists symptoms, treatment, and a verdict: treat, try, or walk away. Picture the healer probing your wound, deciding it's an ailment I will treat, then cleansing it with honey, a natural antiseptic, before threading a needle with linen. It's quick, painful, but skilled, and you're struck by their steady hands. Their tools, knives, forceps, cautery hooks were sharp as their minds. They sutured cuts, drained abscesses, set bones with wooden splints, even circumcised with ritual precision. Mummies show healed fractures proof patients walked again. For pain, opium or herbs dulled the edge, but no deep sleep speed was their anaesthetic. They left arrowheads lodged if pulling, risked worse, a call that screamed savvy. No heart surgery or amputations. They lacked germ theory or blood flow maps. Yet they knew anatomy from mummification, and their notes shaped Greek and Roman practice. As the healer binds your arm, chanting to Thoth for guidance, you feel its surgery here was medicine's bold frontier, carving life from pain, with blade and brain. You're in an ancient Egyptian birthing room, the air soft with lotus oil and the murmur of midwives' prayers. Women's health wasn't sidelined here, it was sacred, central to life's cycle. The Kern Papyrus from 1800 BCE spills secrets on fertility, pregnancy and childbirth, a healer's guide to the womb's mysteries. Imagine a woman seeking to conceive. The swan has a urinate on barley and emmer seeds. Barley sprouts, a boy. Emmer, a girl, nothing. No child. It's quirky, but hormones might have made it work, a flicker of science in the Nile's shadow. Midwives, not just doctors, held court here, their hands and chants guiding life's start, like this glimpse into Egypt's heart. Drop a like and tell me, where are you drifting off tonight? Childbirth was divine, watched by Taweret, the hippo goddess. Women squatted on birth bricks, midwives massaging with castor oil or brewing herbal drinks to ease labour. Spells warded off a meat, a demon blamed for miscarriages. Contraception, honey and acacia paste, or yes, crocodile dung, sticky barriers to block conception. No C-sections. Tough births often ended in sorrow. Yet the papyrus details vaginal care, infertility cures, and miscarriage prevention, blending herbs with magic. Women weren't just patients, some were healers, their knowledge vital. As a midwife places a Taweret amulet on the mother you see it, Egypt revered life's cradle, every birth, a bridge between earth and eternity, tended with care and awe. You're in an ancient Egyptian temple, the flicker of oil lamps casting shadows on sandstone walls etched with gods. A healer eyes intense chants over a fevered child, her voice weaving spells as vital as the honey salve on the wound. In Egypt, medicine wasn't just herbs, it was Heka, the sacred magic gifted by the gods, as real as the Nile's flow. Illness could come from bad food or a broken bone, but if your pain had no cause, it might be a curse, a demon, or Sekhmet's wrath. The Tsunyas doesn't just treat. They battle the unseen, their words a shield against spirits. Feel that ancient pulse. Hit that like if you're hooked and drop a comment, where's your mind wandering tonight? Spells were medicine's heartbeat, etched in scrolls like the Eber's papyrus. A burn might get a poultice, and a plea to Isis, cool this flesh as you saved Horus from fire. Amulets, scarabs, Horus's eye hung on necks, or bound in bandages warding off evil. Sekhmet, fierce as a lion, was feared for plagues but begged for cures. Thoth guided healers' hands. These weren't frills, they were power-turning herbs into miracles. To us it's odd magic beside bandages, but to Egyptians it was whole. Healing meant harmony, body and soul aligned with Ma'at. As the chant fades, the child's brow cools, and you see it words were as potent as salves, stitching life back together in a world alive with unseen forces. You're in a dimly lit chamber by the Nile, the air heavy with myrrh and natron's sharp bite. An embalmer masked as Anubis, the jackal god, works with quiet reverence, preparing a body not for death, but for eternity. In ancient Egypt, mummification wasn't just funeral prep, it was medicine for the soul, a blend of anatomy and divine craft. The body was no mere shell. It was the anchor for the Kai and Bay the spirit and soul needed to navigate the afterlife. Picture the process organs removed, stored in canopic jars under Horus's sons the heart left as the seat of wisdom. Its surgical precision with a sacred twist, and you're awed by the care. Like this glimpse into forever. Drop a like and tell me where's your heart tonight. The embalmers wash the body with palm wine, dry it with natron for 40 days, then stuff it with resins and linen, wrapping it in yards of cloth laced with amulets. Each step hums with spells from the Book of the Dead, shielding the dead from underworld demons. The brain pulled through the nose useless, they thought. This wasn't crude. Mummies show clean cuts, healed tissues, proof of skill honed over millennia. It taught healers anatomy, feeding their living cures. Mummification was Egypt's ultimate act of care, not to save a life, but to secure it forever, a passport to the stars. As the final bandage is tied, you feel it. This was medicine beyond breath, a love letter to eternity. You're in an Egyptian house of life, a temple school where scribes copy scrolls under Thoth's watchful gaze, their reed pens scratching secrets of healing. Ancient Egypt's medicine wasn't whispered folklore. It was a system inked in papyrus, precise as a pyramid's stones. The Ebers Papyrus, a 100-foot scroll from 1550 BCE, holds 700 remedies for fevers, fractures, even sorrow. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, a surgeon's log, dissects injuries with cool logic, sorting them into treatable or lost causes. The Cahoon Papyrus guards women's health from birth to barrenness. These weren't dusty relics, they were textbooks studied by Tsundbiaolwolst, who learned herbs, spells and sutures. Feel that ancient wisdom. Hit that like and share. Where are you dreaming tonight? This wasn't just Egypt's triumph, it shaped the world. Greek healers like Hippocrates drank from this well-praising Egyptian skill. Clean wounds, honey salves, pulse checks, these flowed into classical medicine, then ours. Egypt's holistic view, tying body to spirit, echoes in modern wellness from therapy to hospice care. Garlic, willow bark, castor oil, still in our kits. Their triage, their records, their daring to write it down gave us science's first steps. As you imagine those scribes' lamplight on their faces, you see it. Egypt didn't just heal bodies. They healed time, their scrolls a gift to every doctor who ever swore to do no harm. Picture yourself trudging through a medieval town where the air's thick with the tang of wet earth, horse dung, and something that might have been soup in a past life. It's dusk, the kind that paints the sky bruise purple, and rains just quit leaving the cobblestones slick as a liar's tongue. Your boots, your only pair, are soaked squelching with every step, and you've dodged 2 carts of turnips that seemed hell-bent on flattening you. You're bone-tired, your stomach's growling like a chained dog, and all you want is a corner to collapse in with a drink to dull the day. Welcome to the medieval tavern, the beating, booze-soaked heart of every town where knights, farmers and bards all end up drunk, broke, or both. It's not just a bar, it's where news breaks, fights spark, and fleas throw their own parties under your tunic. Finding a tavern isn't like flipping open an app. There's no neon, no sign screaming open. You let your ears do the work. Past the blacksmith's clang and the fishmonger hawking eels that look suspiciously alive, you hear it. A roar of laughter, shouting, and someone butchering a song about a goose that stole a knight's honour. Follow that noise, and there it is, a lopsided wooden shack leaning like it's had one too many itself. A sign dangles above the door, its paint so faded, you can't tell if it's a barrel, a bear, or some unholy mix of the two. The front steps slick with spilled ale, and as you shove the heavy iron hinge door, it groans louder than your knees after a day's labour. Warm air hits you a punch of smoke sweat and roasted something or other. You're here. The tavern's alive and it's already sizing you up. So take a breath if you dare and step inside. What's waiting is a night you'll either treasure or pray to forget. The tavern wraps around you like a damp, rowdy hug. The ceiling's so low you duck instinctively, and the floor's actual dirt, not some poetic nonsense sprinkled with straw that's doing a terrible job of hiding the grime. Candlelight flickers on soot-stained walls, throwing shadows that make even the stools look like they're spoiling for a fight. The hearth blazes in one corner, spitting sparks and smoke that doesn't quite find the chimney, probably because a dead bird's clogging it. The smell's a beast of its own. Sour ale splashed everywhere, wet wool steaming off bodies, and a whiff of boiled onions that's somehow both comforting and alarming. It's not a scent, it's a life choice. There's no hostess, no menus, no quiet booths for heart-to-hearts. The place is a single, sprawling mess of wobbly tables and benches that creak under the weight of muddy boots and bad decisions. You spot a seat near the hearth, but it's damp with something you don't investigate. The crowd's a living thing, loud, shoving, laughing. A farmer's yelling about a stolen chicken. A one-eyed dog's gnawing a bone under a table like he's the landlord, and someone's passed out with a ladle still clutched in his fist. A woman slams her mug down, splashing half her drink, and nobody blinks. This is the tavern's pulse, raw, unfiltered, and set to either riot or out cold. You settle in, feeling the bench groan, and realise you're not just a guest, you're part of the chaos now. So raise a mug if you can find one and brace for what's next. The night's young and the tavern's got plans for you. You're barely settled on your creaky bench when you feel the weight of a stare that could curdle ale. It's the tavern keeper, the unchallenged sovereign of this smoky kingdom, and they're sizing you up like you might owe them for last week's stew. No crown, no sceptre, just a presence that commands the room like a storm cloud with a grudge. If it's a man, he's built like a barrel had a love child, with a battering ram grizzled with arms that could snap a broomstick, and a scowl carved from years of bad debts. If it's a woman, she's got eyes sharper than a skinning knife cutting through the chaos, with a glance that says, "Try me," and you'll be mopping the floor with your face. Either way, they've seen it all: bar fights, cheaters, lovesick bards, and cleaned up worse before the roosters crow. The tavern keeper's a one-person empire, juggling roles like cook, judge, and bouncer without breaking a sweat. They pour drinks from a sagging plank, balanced on barrels, bark orders that cut through the din, and keep tabs on every coin owed without scribbling a single note. That guy in the corner who's been nursing the same mug for an hour, they know he's dodging his tab from Tuesday. Need gossip about who's in debt, or sneaking around with the miller's wife, bribe them with a compliment and a copper and they might spill. Cross them though and you're out the door with a tankard-shaped dent in your pride. A helper may be a kid they half-adopted, or a spouse darts through the crowd, hauling jugs and dodging drunks. The keeper's the axis this chaos spins around, keeping the ale flowing and the roof from caving in. You nod their way, hoping to stay on their good side, because in this tavern, their word's law and their ladle's justice. Your throat's drier than a monk's sermon, and it's time to face the tavern's main event, the drinks. Don't expect a fancy list or a clean mug. This is a medieval tavern where your options are as limited as a peasant's dreams, and just as likely to bite back. First up, the star of the show, ale brewed in a back room where the tavern dog probably naps. It's thick, cloudy, and comes with floaties that could be grey yeast or someone's lost whisker. No ice, no chill, just a lukewarm gulp that tastes like regret and barley. You sip, pray it doesn't kill you, and call it a win if you're still breathing. Then there's mead, the honeyed wine that sounds like a noble's treat, but hits like a mule's kick. If the keeper brewed it, it might be sweet and golden, or it might taste like a beehive's bad day. Cider's another gamble made from apples that either fell fresh or festered for weeks. It's sharp, tangy, and served in a mug that might have held pottage yesterday. Wine. Sure, if you're in a posh southern town, but here it's sour, watered down, and paired with the keeper's smirk. Water's the boldest choice half the time. It's a broth of invisible doom, which is why even kids stick to ale. No cocktails, no shots, just clay or wooden mugs that smell like last night's mistakes. You raise yours, sniff the bitter warmth, and drink deep. It's not fine dining, it's survival, and in this tavern, if it's wet and doesn't drop you dead, it's as good as gold. Your stomach's howling louder than the bard butchering a ballad in the corner, and it's time to tackle the tavern's food, if you can call it that. Don't go dreaming of a menu or a waiter fussing over your preferences. In a medieval tavern, you eat what's there, and you're grateful if it's hot and doesn't wiggle. The star of the show is pottage or stew so thick it could double as mortar. It's been simmering in the same pot since the moon was new, with grains, root vegetables and bits of protein, maybe rabbit, maybe pigeon, maybe something. The cook didn't ask too many questions about tossed-in daily. Nothing comes out, so every spoonful's a history lesson, equal parts sustenance and mystery. If you're lucky, there's bread dark and heavy enough to knock out a thief if you swing it right. Fresh baked, it's chewy. A week old, it's a jawbreaker. Pair it with cheese that smells like it's plotting a coup, or maybe some salted fish that's seen better days. No forks, no napkins, just your own knife, your fingers and the sleeve of your tunic, which by now's a canvas of spills. Sometimes there's a special, which is just the keeper's way of saying they're clearing out leftovers. You eat from a wooden bowl, dodging splinters, and try not to dwell on what's floating in there. In the hearth's glow, with the tavern's roar around you, it's not gourmet, but it's warm, filling, and against all odds, almost comforting. You're not dining, you're surviving, and in this place that's a feast worth celebrating. With a belly full of pottage and a mug of questionable ale in hand, you start to notice the tavern's real show, the people. This place is a human tapestry woven from every thread of medieval life, and it's louder than a market day brawl. To your left, a farmer with a face red as his ale rambles about his cow's latest adventure, slapping your shoulder, like you've been mates since birth. Across the room, a hooded figure nurses a drink in the shadows. Could be a monk on the run, could be a bandit, could just hate eye contact. You're not asking. Near the hearth, a soldier in dented armour spins a yarn about battling dragons and Frenchmen. His audience too drunk to care, it's nonsense. A merchant sweating through his cloak shouts grain prices. Nobody asked for flashing coins like he's begging to be robbed. Two locals roll dice on a warped table, one cheating so blatantly the other's just waiting for an excuse to swing. A bard strums a love song in the corner, a voice cracking, but pants mercifully on, which is more than you could say for last night's performer. Women weave through the crowd, some serving, some working their own deals, sharp-eyed and quick to laugh or land a punch. Kids dart underfoot, swiping crusts and coppers, and nobody bats an eye. It's a circus of boasts, bets, and bad decisions, and you're in the front row. This tavern's not just a place to eat, it's a stage, and every soul here's playing their part, including you. The tavern's no symphony hall, but it's got a soundscape that grabs you by the ears and doesn't let go. It's a wild living cacophony, like a storm decided to throw a party. Mugs clank against tables, some in cheerful toasts, others shattering into cheers that drown out the crash. Laughter erupts big and raw, spilling from throats like it's been caged too long. A farmer chortles at his own hay bale joke, a knight snickers over the word pottage, and a monk wheezes every time someone yells duck. Don't ask, you won't get a straight answer. Voices pile on each, louder, clawing for space arguments over taxes, half-true tales of battles and someone mangling scripture to win a bet. The tavern keeper's bellow cuts through, swatting orders like flies, while a barmaid snaps at a handsy drunk, her voice sharp as a blade. A guy in the corner chants another round, like it's his war cry. The bard, bless his heart, strums a lute with 3 strings left, looping 4 creaky chords and belting verses about lost loves and runaway chickens. Nobody's really listening unless he names someone in the room. Then it's either a riot or a roast. Dogs bark, a goat bleats, nobody knows why it's here, and chairs scrape the dirt floor like thunder in a barrel. Someone spills ale, someone burps loud enough to shake the rafters, and someone else tumbles off a bench still talking like it's part of the plan. Every so often the noise dips a 3-second hush, then a heroic fart restarts the chaos. It's not music, it's the tavern's heartbeat, and the longer you sit, the more it feels like home. As the ale loosens tongues and the hearth warms bones, the tavern morphs into a medieval casino, all sweat and swagger with no velvet ropes but plenty of yelling. Gambling's the night's sport, and everyone's a player, from grizzled soldiers to kids sneaking borrowed dice. No dealers, no rules, just a scarred table, a pile of coppers, and a guarantee someone's leaving with less than they brought. Dice carved from bone or whatever's handy rattle across the wood like tiny thunderstorms each roll, sparking cheers, curses, or cries of witchcraft. Nobody trusts the dice, but nobody stops rolling either. Cards show up in fancier towns, their edges worn, always missing a few, with rules that shift depending on who's loudest. One minute you're chasing high numbers, the next you're matching symbols or just bluffing through the haze. Bets range from coins to mugs to yes, someone's goat. Another guy wagers his boots, and one fool bets his freedom for the night. Spoiler, he's sleeping in the stable now. The regulars are sharks, shuffling fast, rolling, slow, grinning like they've already pocketed your soul. Cheating's half the game, a hidden die, a marked card, a timely cough when the stakes climb. Win big, and you'd better buy a round or brace for a brawl. Lose hard, and you smile inch toward the door and pray nobody notices. Side games flare up too, arm wrestling, thumb wars, or who can chug the most before kissing the floor. The winner gets claps, the loser gets a nap in the straw. It's not about the coin, it's about the rush, the laugh, and the chance to lose your pride and keep your pants. In this tavern, luck's a gamble and you're all in. The tavern's haze thickens, and as the ale flows, the air hums with something new. Stories spun like threads that tie the room together. It's not just noise now, it's a stage where truth takes a nap and every tale's a performance. In the corner, a bard clears his throat, his lute squeaking like it's begging for mercy. He's got a few teeth missing, but swagger to spare, launching into a ballad about a knight who wooed a mermaid and drowned, reciting bad poetry. Nobody buys it, but the crowd leans in, mugs in hand, because in this tavern, a good lie beats a dull fact any day. His voice cracks, his chords wobble, but he's got the room until he trips over a verse and someone chucks a bread crust. Then the patrons join in each tale wilder than the last. A grizzled farmer swears he wrestled a bear and drank to tell the tale. Another guy claims he saw a witch turn his cow into a goat. Nobody asks for proof. A third, slurring through his fourth ale, insists he's kin to Charlemagne, probably through his cousin's dog. You won't believe this, they start, and they're right, you don't, but you're hooked. Jokes flop and circle back to genius. A shaky poem, likely stolen from a monk, gets cheers or jeers, depending on the crowd's mood. If a travelling skald rolls through, it's a treat. Their songs are tight, their stories long, and they can whip the room into a frenzy. But even they know the tavern's golden rule: never let facts spoil the fun. In this smoky glow, with the hearth crackling and mugs sloshing, storytelling's more than entertainment. It's glue binding strangers into friends, or at least drinking buddies for one wild night. You laugh, you clap, and for a moment you're part of the myth too. The night's deep, the ale's deeper, and the tavern's air buzzes with a reckless kind of courage. The bard's crooning about wayward shepherdesses, and suddenly everyone's feeling a bit too bold. Welcome to medieval flirting, where subtlety's as rare as a clean mug. It kicks off with a squinting glance across the room, one eye foggy from mead. A guy with more gaps than teeth leans over a bench, slurring, "My lady, your eyes outshine the hearth's glow." She lobs a bread crust at his head, and the crowd roars like it's a joust. Others play it smoother, offering a topped-up mug, a clumsy your hairs like good straw, or help carrying a bowl of pottage which spills anyway. If you're a woman here, serving trading, or just passing through, you're dodging poets, wrestlers, and that one drunk trying to balance a spoon on his nose to impress you. Some flirt back sharp and sly, knowing exactly who's got coin or charm. Courtesans glide through, reading the room like a map, their deals quiet, but their presence loud. Romance isn't all laughs, jealousy flares fast. A stray wink, a hand too close, or a wife giggling at the bard's bishop joke can flip a table. Mugs fly, benches snap, and the tavern keeper's already reaching for the club. Yet amid the chaos, real sparks flicker. A baker's daughter and a stonemason share a laugh over stew. Two farmers bond over their mutual loathing of turnips. Even a monk and a nun trade accidental smiles. In this tavern, love or something close dodges flying fists and spilled ale. You might win a heart-earner slap or just wake up with a story. Either way, it's a night you won't forget even if you try. The tavern's a tinderbox, and it doesn't take much to set it blaze. Maybe someone sloshed ale on a dice game, or called another's goat a thief, or heaven forbid claimed the same wobbly bench. Could be a stray insult about someone's mother, or a stew recipe gone too far. Doesn't matter. One minute it's mugs and murmurs, the next it's chaos unleashed. A stool sails across the room, a tankard smashes to the floor, and someone hollers, "Hold my bread," before vaulting a table with the grace of a sack of turnips. Welcome to the tavern, fight less a battle and more a drunken ballet, as predictable as the moon and twice as messy. Nobody's shocked half the room keeps drinking like it's just Tuesday. Fists swing wild, missing more than they land, as men trip into pottage bowls or tug each other's beards like it's a sport. The tavern keeper roars, part general, part exasperated parent, wielding a ladle in one hand and a club in the other. Some fool joins the fray just for kicks, no clue what started it, while others bet coppers on who'll hit the floor first. Knives stay sheathed, pulling steel's a one-way ticket to a ban, and nobody risks losing the only place with warm ale. It's over fast like a candle snuffed out. One guy slumps, another staggers into a wall and calls it a chair. The crowd parts, mugs refill, and someone strikes up a song. 10 minutes later, everyone's laughing. Even the guy with a split lip now dubbed Benchbreaker Bob. No grudges, just bruises and tales. In this tavern, a brawl's not a feud, it's just another round of entertainment, sloppy silly and strangely unifying. The brawl's fizzled, the bard's snoring mid-tune, and your belly's heavy with stew and cider that's already plotting its revenge. The tavern's still humming, but your eyelids are begging for mercy. It's time to sleep, or at least try. Don't expect a feather bed or sweet-smelling linens. This is a medieval tavern, not a lord's manor.